Hey, what's up, gang? Happy Friday. Hope everyone's having a good week. It looks good outside, still a little cool, but hopefully warmer weather is coming soon. I want to talk about a few things today. I don't have as long today. I have to go to a listing appointment, which is good. I'm not complaining there, but I'll keep this fairly brief, relatively speaking. I want to talk about a couple things today. Number one is continuing to look for local businesses that might want to cover like the first 5 to 10 minutes of this every week. I had someone lined up for this week, but then we had some scheduling conflicts. I do have one other business lined up, but other than that, I'm pretty much wide open. Any local business or any business, it could be online businesses, anyone that's got a side hustle, whatever it may be. You're welcome to join me here and talk about your business and ask me any real estate questions that you would like. And I'm always looking for some sort of local business. So it doesn't have to be Hunterdon County because I service a very large area. Middlesex, Somerset, Union County, Warren County, Morris County, Ocean, Monmouth. I cover all those areas. So any business in those areas, anyone you know that might need some free exposure, feel free to send them my way. The hardest part is literally tracking down businesses and scheduling when I just don't have any time for it. I did this quite a bit several years ago when I first started in real estate, and it was very successful on multiple fronts. And actually, I made very good friends with some of the people that I interviewed back then. It's a great way to network. So if you know anyone that you think this applies to, then send them my way because it's rough for me to try and do it on my schedule. So it's just a lot of back and forth and everything, and trying to get scheduled. And so for me to like the businesses is like the layer that's the hardest. Scheduling it's fun. So yeah, if you know anyone, can be any business, retail, landscapers, contractors, whatever the case may be, send them my way. All right. So what I want to talk about this week, I'll give you a quick market update. I mean, it just continuing to heat up. Inventory is actually starting to get better, which I think is a balance of it's spring market now. So, I mean, it gets better this time every year. But also, interest rates are starting to tick up a little bit. So, obviously the demand comes down a little bit from that. And, there's just more than ever, more than the last 6 months, there are actually houses available to show. So the activity is definitely increasing. I know I'm as busy as I can possibly be. Again, to give you an idea of what I'm dealing with, I have 2 listings under contract, 2 listings under contract. One is still active, hoping to be under contract soon. 3 coming soons. And then on the buying side, I have 16 buyers currently, and about half of them actively shopping. So my business being kind of a microcosm for the market, very out of balance. I actually typically try to lean in the direction of listings, and I'm opposite of that. So I have twice as many buyers as I have sellers, which is kind of tough. If you're a producing realtor, it means a lot of driving, a lot of showings, and especially in this market, your clients, it's hard because I have to keep in touch with them for longer because, it takes longer to find a house. And it could mean, multiple rounds of making offers and not getting a house. So it's just creates a lot more work. So, I hope for balance at some point in the future. It doesn't seem like it's imminent, but it's getting better. No complaints here. So stay away from the narratives of, you can't get a house right now. Stay away from any sort of assumptions that you've heard on the news. Because, first of all, we're talking Hunterdon County especially is a very different market than what you're hearing. And, often they're focusing on the hottest markets in the country. So it's really pretty doable in Hunterdon County. It's not so feverish here. Good for sellers, still definitely a seller's market. But I'll keep it pretty vague on the market. But yeah, generally speaking, it's trending in the right direction as far as I'm concerned. And I think we'll continue to see that to some degree. It'll be interesting to see what happens with interest rates. And that could definitely be the X factor here. If there's any sort of significant shift in those interest rates, then things could change quite a bit. But if you like research this a little bit, no one knows the answer. Obviously, we're all speculating. Some people say a crash is imminent, and some people say this is just how it's going to be from now on because of the housing shortage. Um, the easy comparison back to 2008 is not really an apt one, because that was based on some very specific business practices and poor choices and subprime mortgages and all of that. And that's not really what's going on right now. So if you hear that comparison, then you can stop listening at that point and maybe move on to your next source. So, but that's the market update. I'm not going to go over new listings this week just because I'm short on time. We'll see if I have time at the end, but I can tell you just from showing homes this week that we are starting to see more and more locally here in Hunterdon. For the first time in a long time, we have stuff coming up in Clinton. So there's a little bit of a balance. Man, I hate to call that balance because it's really not balanced. But I mean, compared to what we saw over the last like 3 or 4 months, it's approaching a balance. So, all right. So what I wanted to talk about today is I had this idea to start talking about things that there's a lot of things that realtors talk about amongst themselves. We have a lot of masterminds here in the office. I run a mastermind every other Tuesday here in the office, which is open to not only the agents in our office that are in coaching, as well as experienced agents, because in order to be a mastermind, we need a few sharp people in there, experienced people to make it a mastermind. It's not a coaching session or a teaching session; it's a mastermind. But I always say that this is open to all agents. So if you're a competing agent, or you're here in Clinton, or you're across the state, or you're from another state and you're visiting, anyone's welcome to come. We've had some visiting realtors, and it's been great. We definitely in this office we have we're very proud of our culture here. It's a collaborative culture. It's a mind sharing culture. So they're very good discussions, very high end. There's real estate is harder now than it ever was because of all the changing rules and the very heated market and heated buyers and heated sellers. And negotiations are very tense these days, multiple offer situations left and right. So you really have to stay on top of it. So we have this very good venue to have that discussion every other Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. And if you want any information on that, just let me know. And it's I think it's something that's pretty unique that we've had masterminds for a long time. I took it over, I don't know, let's say 6 months ago, and it's been very good. We have very good attendance, and there's great high end discussions. So if you're the type of agent like me who really likes to talk shop and be very informed of what's going on out there, it's a great. And by the way, if you're not a real estate agent but you're considering it, this would be a great way for you to be introduced to like the real side of real estate. Because I will tell you, when I got into real estate, I definitely had a preconceived notion about what I was getting into, and I was completely wrong. I mean, it had, I had no idea what I was talking or thinking about when I got into real estate. And then I discovered what real estate was really about and how it really worked, and the things that are really important, and the challenges that I didn't anticipate, and the stuff that I thought would be challenges ended up not being the biggest challenges. So if you're thinking about getting into real estate and you just want to hear what a bunch of high producing realtors talk about, then stop on by. Just give me a shout, and I'll give you all the info. But I want to talk about I want to start talking about some of these subjects that are things that realtors are either bothered by, or that is common knowledge amongst realtors, but maybe not apparent to consumers, because I think this is a good subject. And there are many things that fall under this umbrella. But one of the things that can be very challenging for someone who's trying to make a living doing this is this idea of client versus customer. So I just told you about my big board. So let's talk about my buyers. I have 16 buyers right now, and I'm just taking a quick count here. Yeah, I won't give you an exact number because I'm not sure exactly what it is. But let's say I said 8 of them are actively shopping. And of those 8, 4 of them have signed a buyer's agency agreement, which means if they buy a house in the next, whatever the term is, it could be 6 months or a year or whatever it is, that they will do it with me and no one else. Now, this isn't a requirement. I don't ask all my buyers to do it. Like, for example, if they were referred to me by another realtor or by another professional, then I don't necessarily ask them to sign a buyer's agreement. I also tell people when they sign the buyer's agreement, look, I'll let you out of this agreement anytime you want. You have my word. You can get out anytime you want. I just ask that you sign it to protect me and my family. Because this idea of customer versus client. So what is a customer and what is a client? A client is someone that signed that buyer's agency agreement. We are now in a business relationship. I have your back. I'm constantly looking for you. I'm out showing houses every day. I'm going to be seeing some today, some this weekend. I'm looking for you actively and advocating for you. Not to mention exclusive deals we have here in the office and everything else. A lot of times I'm showing a house to one client. It's not right for that client, but I'm like, ooh, you know who would like this house? So-and-so. So that's a client. That's what a client is. It's someone that is signed on with me, so to speak. So what is a customer? A customer is someone that isn't signed on, but that I'm actively helping. I mean, that's a good portion of my buyers up on my board is I'm definitely working with them, but they haven't necessarily signed any paperwork to indicate that. So in theory, they could go to an open house this weekend, meet another agent and either just like that agent better, or what happens more typically, not that I think everyone likes me, that's fine. Some people probably do not like me, and that's totally fine. But what happens more often is this, and this is a big subject in real estate. It's very, very talked about, and there's a lot of questionable things and ethical things that go on here, but they could go to an open house on Sunday, and that agent, the agent working the open house, which is clearly not me, and my clients would not be with me. That agent could come up to them and say, oh, are you working with an agent? Yeah, we're working with an agent. Well, have you found anything yet? No, not really. Well, again, stepping outside of that, we know the inventory is super low right now. So that's not something that's my fault, but no, they haven't found anything. And that agent can say, oh, did you see, 23 Main Street? And they say, no, I don't think I did see that one. How would you like to go see it? I guess we could go see it. They go see it. They love it. Instead of calling me, which would be the right thing to do. In fact, the right thing to do if you were my client would be to step out of that open house, text me and say, hey, they mentioned this listing that just came on today. We hadn't seen it yet, or we hadn't thought of it, or whatever the reason is that hadn't gotten on their radar yet. Can we go see it? And I would say, sure, absolutely. Let's go see it. What a lot of people just do is they just take that agent's word for it and they say, okay, yeah, let's go see it. The agent takes them over, they like it, and they put an offer in with that agent. So all of the work I did with that customer up until that point is nothing. It's just wasted time at that point. I'm not going to get anything. Now there's some ins and outs here, and I'm not going to get into all the, real estate ethical things that we need to know, because there are things where this is legit and is not great because it affects my income, obviously, and my ability to feed my family, and my time. But there are also ways that this is done unethically by agents. And it's a real struggle. And I had a situation recently, and these are the ones that really bug us. I had a client that I showed a house to. They found me through my marketing, and they found me and they said, hey, we want to go look at a few houses. I showed them a house, and we've been texting back and forth. They sent me listings. I researched them. I call listing agents. I let my clients know, what's going on with those listings. And I'm thinking of the story in my head and making sure I don't say anything too specific, because I'm not trying to shame them or anything, but this is just an example of how this can go wrong. So I kept in touch, and a house came on the market, and I asked, hey, have you seen this house? And they said no. And they said, can you look into it for us? We'd be interested to see it. I did. I called the listing agent. I looked into it, got the information I needed, texted my customers back and said, hey, it's available. Let's go see it. How's Friday? Didn't hear anything back. Well, what do you think happened here? Well, they got their old email that they were on from their old realtor, who they had told me they had when they got to me, and they had actually said that, they didn't want to work with her anymore. And I said, okay, that's totally fine. And what were the reasons? And they told me the reasons. And I said, all right, well, let's not do those things. And I said, and then I sent them a buyer's agency agreement, which they never signed. They dragged their feet, which is always a little bit of a flag. But again, I don't necessarily require that to work with people. I ask it because it's a show of loyalty to me, and I give you that caveat. I'll let you out anytime. We'll rip this thing up, no problem. And what happened was they called up a realtor they had been using previously, and I guess because I wasn't able to take them that evening, which, by the way, there was no urgency to do that. They went with their old realtor. They put an offer in on the house, and they are under contract. So, it's just that, people are going to do what they have to do. They could have easily just had me do that, by the way. Once you make the decision that you're not working with your previous realtor, you probably owe that previous realtor an explanation of some sort, or I shouldn't say an explanation, but just let them know you're not working with them anymore, because they are spending time on you. And furthermore, tell your new agent that you're still working with your old agent, because I need to know that. I mean, I only have so much time in a day. And when I'm making phone calls and researching listings on your behalf, and then find out that you're going to take that information and go buy with another realtor, I don't appreciate that. I mean, that's free work, and I have a family to feed. So the difference is with a client is I will gladly do all of the work for you, because I know that you are dedicated to me. So we get into other situations too, where this is big. I get a lot of business online, Facebook and Google and whatnot, and it's even worse there. And the reason for that is actually quite simple. Is if I get a personal referral, every realtor would tell you personal referrals are exactly how we like to do business. A past client says, oh, you know what, my neighbor's selling their house, and I told them they definitely have to talk to you. And here's their number. And I call up them, and we do a listing appointment, and end up listing their house. Those are the best, because, they came in as a personal referral. So obviously I come highly recommended, and we kick it off. The difference with, or friends and family, of course, obviously that's an easy one. But the difference with online leads is they're extremely fickle. So if they got my information online, whether Google, Facebook, whatever, there's a good chance they've gotten other people's information. There's a good chance they're going to open houses and meeting agents every week. It's a race for me to get in touch with them and have a meaningful conversation and build some rapport before they just go with someone else. And again, I don't put it this way. I get about 300 people a month contacting me. 300. That's a lot of people. I'm only going to talk to maybe, let's say, 20% of them. And out of that 20%, I'm probably only going to do business with, if I'm lucky, 5 or 6% of them. So the biggest problem is when let's say I meet someone at an open house, it's a lot easier for me to meet someone at an open house and then do business with them, because they met me. I'm standing in front of them and I'm talking. They probably ask me some real estate questions. They can see I know what I'm talking about. We have a few laughs, we build a little rapport, and off we go, and we're doing business together. But you don't get that opportunity with online leads. So this is why we have to use buyer's agency agreements to say, look, we just met, or we haven't really met, or we've met via Zoom. And I need you to just let me know that you are in fact working with me and no one else, so that I can dedicate my time to you. And if they're reluctant to do that, then I have a quandary, because I need to decide if I'm going to continue to show them houses and research listings and make phone calls on their behalf, if they haven't shown me any sort of loyalty or made any sort of commitment to me. And that is the quandary of a real estate agent. Now, why am I telling you this as a consumer? Is this is something for you to think about. And I get these calls on Zillow all the time, every week, week in and week out. I've mentioned them on several of these broadcasts, but people call me and say, hey, we saw this house on listing. We want to go see it. And at some point in the conversation, it's either they ask me the question or I say to them, you do realize that's not my listing, right? Because it isn't. And then they usually say, no, we thought you were the listing agent. And I said, that's fine, because I can literally show you any house in New Jersey. But just so you know, you're welcome to call whoever you want. I don't even know these people, so you can go to whoever you want. But why are you calling the listing agent? What is the why? Why are you doing it that way? And now that you figured out I'm not the listing agent, let me help you buy the house, because now I represent you. You just hired your own personal representative in this transaction. And then the people say, you know what, it's better if we just go with the listing agent, and they hang up. It happened again this week. I think I talked about it last week too. I say, okay, well, good luck. And it happens on my listings too. I do get the calls because they call based on my sign or whatever, and I reluctantly show them the house. And I say reluctantly because when we're in all these situations where we're getting 10 or 20 offers, it does actually just really complicate things, which is why it's not a good strategy. I think in prior markets, where there isn't multiple bids and houses sit on the market for months and months on end, sure, there's nothing wrong with that strategy. I would still argue that you don't have your own representation, because the listing agent works for the seller and the seller alone until you come up, and now the listing agent works for no one, because he has to represent both sides. And if he represents both sides, he's really not representing either side, just basically acting as a person to help the transaction along. So those people call me. I explain I'm not the listing agent. They say, okay, thanks, but no thanks, and they hang up. And a lot of what's going on here is it's very complicated on the back end. We understand how that works on Zillow, but it's very complicated in terms of how people get those phone calls, because they're very rarely the listing agent. But if you're one of these people that's just like calling realtors every time you see a house, and you just hit that thing on Zillow that says call here, or contact us for a free tour, it's literally just a lottery system. You're just taking, if you're going to go to, take something as simple as like picking a local restaurant. Most people at least like check Yelp real quick and make sure the reviews are decent and whatnot. Most people, maybe some people, just fly by the seat of their pants. I know I don't, but I used to travel a lot. So I used to travel for work, and I would go to, say I'm going to St. Louis and I'm just rolling into town. I need to get dinner. I'm not going to just go to any place. I'm just going to do a quick Yelp based on my location and what kind of cuisine I'm looking for. I'm going to see what the good restaurant is. I don't, I'm traveling, so I don't want to get sick, or, I want to make sure I have a decent experience. So, it should be the same with realtors. It's literally the biggest financial transaction of your life. So, to leave it all up to Zillow and just throw caution to the wind, throw yourself in that lottery of whatever realtor is up next in the paid system and saying, great, you can be my realtor, seems crazy to me. I actually even tell people that find me online, or I meet out in real life and just happen to start talking real estate, I just say, Google my name. Just Google Craig Metz Realtor and just read the reviews. If you're curious, if not, fine. I'm happy to supply references, although no one's ever asked me for a reference that would seemingly be very logical too. But instead, people just go with that lottery system, or calling the listing agent. Both very flawed, in my opinion. So, from my standpoint, if you meet me online, in fact, I'm going today to go with a client that I met online, and now we've gotten to know each other. We've done several showings and everything else, so we've had a chance to build that rapport. But it's one thing to find me online, and I know that when I was getting started, I didn't advertise a lot online because I knew the first thing that everyone was going to do was look me up, and there was nothing to be seen at the time because I didn't have any transactions. And it's not a real deliberate approach to picking an agent. And and maybe part of that is that people really don't understand what agents do. But I can tell you, in this market, you really have to be with someone competent, and the best way to be with someone competent is to find someone who's producing, is selling. I don't know, let's say 10 or more homes a year is like a pretty decent agent. You start getting into the 20s and 30s. I average about 25 homes a year, sometimes a little more. And that's a high producing agent. So you can be confident at least that it's a very competent agent and that they know what they're doing. And that's so important in this market. So all the years prior, when you had a lot of part-timers, believe me, we still have a lot of part-timers. Nothing inherently wrong with being a part-time realtor. But things are so complicated right now from the multi-offer situation. I've said in previous weeks, I take, my last listing, we took 19 offers. 15 or 16 of them had major flaws, could have gone right in the trash. And I have to present them all to my seller. But, I think all the clients of the agents that are submitting these horribly written and flawed offers think that their realtor is doing a great job for them, the whole time knowing that they're probably missing out on house after house because, they may not have made the right decision. You can pick the wrong professional. You can pick the wrong contractor to build a deck for you or, do a patio. It is a thing. So, so how do you get a great realtor? Well, first of all, just either a personal referral. Personal referrals are great. Then Google them, very obvious, and read the reviews on Zillow and Google and Facebook and whatever else. Talk to them, make sure you get along with them, make sure you don't mind spending time with them because you will be spending a lot of time with them. A lot of times you're going to be spending months on end with them. And then, beyond that, they should be able to talk strategy with you. Like, what is it that makes them good at what they do? Make sure they are producing. If they're selling 25 homes a year, they know what they're doing. That I can guarantee you that is not easy. But the most important thing is how you can get that kind of realtor available to you is show them some level of commitment. And I think that's what people struggle with the most. And it can be really frustrating on my end because it does affect my income and my ability to provide for my family. But it's not even talking professionally, but let's just talk about like a kindness level. You're making that realtor think that they're working for you. And then all of a sudden they're not. And all that time they spent working for you was for naught, and it was for free. So if you want a dedicated realtor who's going to provide you with a great experience, make some level of commitment to them. If you're not comfortable signing a buyer's agency agreement, you should be questioning the relationship, because if you're serious about buying a house, then why not sign a buyer's agency agreement unless there's something to indicate that that realtor is incompetent or, not a good match or whatever the case may be. But once you make that commitment, it will pay off because your realtor will then be confident they are working for you. And the only other big mistake I get from clients or customers is I had a discussion. There was a big discussion about this in the office this week about customers or clients who don't listen. Now, that's not to say that everything a realtor says is gold and we're always right, because we're taking educated guesses on a lot of subjects. But if you're not even listening, like if you're not even open to what they're saying, that's a different story, right? You can like hear what they're saying, completely understand it, and say, I do hear what you're saying, but I'm going to take a different approach on this one. With all due respect, fine. That does happen. For example, pricing a house. Like I might give you, hey, here's my price and why, and they'll say, I hear everything you're saying, but I just have a hankering and I just want to take a shot at this other price. And I say, okay, that's fine. Let's do your price for 30 days and then we'll do my price. And sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes the house goes right away at that higher price, and it is what it is, but it doesn't happen too often. And there are ways that we can kind of minimize the times that would happen, but it does happen. That's fine. That's a different conversation. That's totally fine. That's a discussion. But if they're literally just not listening to you, like, basically treating me like I'm an idiot, this happens all the time. And it's a multifaceted thing, because a lot of times I won't argue with clients. That's a rule that I was given by someone with a lot more wisdom than me, not a realtor, just a person in my life that gave me the wisdom of never argue with clients. And I've taken that to heart, is I will not argue with you. Um, and I will tell you that in all due respect, I disagree. And here's why. However, that's fine. We can do it your way. And, that can be a lot of times what I end up doing is I'm not telling them what I think when I say something like, with all due respect, I disagree, and let me tell you why. It's not that I want to push them to do what I'm saying. It's that I can literally see them making a bad decision. And, some things are fluid. Price is fluid, right? Like, we're all just taking our best guess. And I can get you in the ballpark and you can tack on 30 grand just because you want to take a shot at getting that extra 30 grand. You might have gotten it anyway at the lower price because everything's, going over asking price these days. But that's fine. That's like a fluid situation. There are other things that are not so fluid. There are decisions that are bad decisions. And when I see those happening, and I try to tell my client that, with all due respect, I do think that you might want to consider this other angle. What I'm really saying sometimes is, this is a bad decision. This is going to cost you. But I'm not going to say that way. And, there's only so many times that it's a hard, fast thing. There are very specific things where people do make bad decisions and they stick with it, and it is what it is. But all of these types of challenges that realtors have are slightly mitigated when we have a lot of trust in our client and we're working together and it's collaborative. Because ego's out of the way and everything. And and the occupation of being a realtor is really interesting because, and again, I say these things as facts. I'm not ever trying to disparage anyone. In fact, I know people across the board who are great at this job and have all sorts of backgrounds in education, backgrounds where they were never previously employed, corporate backgrounds, whatever the case may be. And they are good and bad. There is no background that says it's going to be a good realtor, which makes it very interesting because, I get treated pretty poorly sometimes out in the field. And a lot of realtors do. We take the brunt of certain situations when there's heated multiple offer situations or inspection negotiations or things like that. And, not for nothing, but, I have a degree in finance. I have an MBA. I did, 15 years in corporate America. I like to think I'm a pretty capable person. And since being in real estate, as anyone who knows me or is watching this knows, I'm very capable, and I have big thoughts and big strategies in what I do in real estate. And when someone just shuts you down and you say, well, I know the last time you sold a house was 20 years ago, and I've sold in that time, well, in the last 3 years, I've sold, 80, or I don't know where I'm at these days, but let's say 80. It's hard to justify that they would, override your opinion without even hearing you out. That's just, again, for lack of a better term, it's an ignorant action. And that is difficult sometimes. So I will tell you this. I mean, realtors fire clients all the time because it gets to a point where if you're just not going to listen to me, it's probably not worth us working together. I don't ever want to argue with you. And I'm really not after just getting transactions. I'm after building relationships. So, those are some of the challenges. So if you want that good, healthy relationship with your realtor who's going to be your expert, the person that you are paying a good amount of money to help you in the biggest financial transaction of your life. Most of the time people are buying a house, it is their biggest transaction of their life. Unless they own multiple houses or have great wealth or something like that. For the most part, it's very high stakes. And you're paying this great deal of money. And, I think some people see us as like a necessary evil. But that's not what being a realtor is these days. It's anyone can find a house. We all have Zillow on our phone, including me. And anyone can find a house. But again, from the multiple offer situation to negotiating inspections to considering appraisal concerns to putting market value on properties and marketing your home. Like all of these things have gotten a lot more challenging. So you'd be crazy not to go with a competent professional. In my opinion, obviously I'm a little biased in this, but that is one of the bigger challenges we have now. So if you want a good realtor, it doesn't have to be me. I would be pleased if it was, and my family would thank you as well. But if you are looking to, be with a high producing, successful realtor who will get you what you want, make that commitment to them. Sign a buyer's agency agreement, sign a listing agreement, tell them that, I'm with you. You're my guy or girl. And, there's no question. I'm not going anywhere else. Let's do this. And you will get a different level of service for sure. That is a big deal. So, and again, I always kind of pick these subjects based on things that are going on lately. And I just told you a story that happened to me within the past week or so. And these are pretty common. They do happen. And they don't get any easier to swallow when they do happen. It can be very discouraging, but that is the difference. And I have a lot of clients right now that I'm running with buyers that I'm actively shopping with that have made the commitment. And that's it's a very different relationship. It's a different dynamic because there's a lot of trust. And when there's trust, then the professional side of it gets a lot easier because there's trust back and forth. I can be honest with my clients as opposed to with the customers. It can be a little bit more of a walking on eggshell situation because I don't know if they're even going to work with me yet. So I think that's a very common, I don't want to say mistake. I think it's a very common oversight at the consumer level that they don't understand what it means to find a great realtor and make a commitment to them. I think that a lot of people just bounce. I have people call me all the time. They just go on Zillow and every house they like, they just contact that realtor and then, all right, well, that one didn't work out. We'll keep looking. And a week later, they see a different house and they contact that realtor. We are all looking, we all have the same houses. I mean, we're all pulling from the same pool. It's not like you go with a realtor and they'll find these houses and you go with Realtor B and they'll go find these houses and Realtor C has these houses. We all have the same houses. There's exclusive deals, but that's a very small part of the market. So consumers, consider that client versus customer. Make a commitment and become a client. Be a customer, who knows? And I'll tell you this, the other side of it is if you were a customer, you're just a person that calls me occasionally to go look at a house or any realtor. You're not getting the same level of access in the exclusive deals and the stuff that I go out and see. And I say, oh, you know what, this would be great for so-and-so. With my active clients, they just have a higher level of access to me on a day-to-day basis. And that comes from that commitment. I got to feed the family. So if you're committed to me, I'm committed to you. All right. So I think that's about it. I got to wrap and head out of here to a listing appointment. Local businesses, if you know anyone, please contact me and I'll be happy to just give them 5 to 10 minutes on this. And I'm trying to start every episode with that. But finding the businesses is challenging. We do have a few coming up, but it's the scheduling is, I shouldn't say scheduling. The recruiting of businesses is the hardest part for me. So if you know any local small businesses, I just want a 5 or 10 minute thing to put on their website and whatnot. We'll just post a link to it and everything else. Then, let me know, please. Any questions for future broadcasts, please just drop them in the comments, email me, text me, whatever it may be. Any general real estate questions or any specific real estate questions. If it's too specific, I'll call you. But feel free to put those up here. I'll continue to do these every Friday. And that's pretty much it for this week. So bye for now, and hope you're all doing well, staying healthy. Hopefully the weather gets warmer. Hope you all have a great weekend, and I will talk to you all soon. All right, take care.